I just finished hiking the remote northwest coast of Rapa Nui, otherwise called Easter Island. It is a place with no houses, no roads, 10 miles worth of just beautiful coastline wrapping around a volcano. Nobody goes out there. There's really very little archaeology out there. Even the Rapa Nui themselves don't go out there all that often. But I and a small group of people hiked the 10 miles that took us 6 hours to get across. I wanted to do this because that area of the island was known as the territory of the most powerful clan. They're called the Miru clan. And since they were the most powerful, I would think that their architecture out there would be the greatest. So I was excited to see it myself, and it totally didn't disappoint. Now, you can get lost out there really easy. So I hired my friend Paka and his brother Sebi to be our guides on it. Just 5 people from my group were willing to take this huge 10-mile hike with me, but boy, was it exciting. We saw absolutely no one the whole time except for 3 people, and those people ended up being a little group with Paka and Sebi's aunt, so we stopped and said hi to them as they horse rode past us. About an hour into the hike, we reached the first major village of this Miru clan. It's called Tehare, and it had boathouses all out in an open plaza and then a big ahu like the other parts of the island. But this ahu was bigger than most of them. Its stones were huge, megalithic, and very well fit together. One of the coolest things about Tehare is that one of the big stones in its wall is actually a moai. You can see its shape in the wall. And that fascinates me because that means that moai, which we know were statues that the Rapa Nui made to imbue with the spirits of their ancestors, they could be activated as an ancestor, but then deactivated and just be a regular old stone again. It's a real clue into the meaning, significance, and function of those beautiful moai statues. So there was one on the wall, and there were also a few fallen in the front. They were pushed down during the chaotic Rapa Nui Civil War. Another hour of walking along the coast brought us to another huge village with a big ahu. It's called Hanga Omoi. And Hanga Omoi's ahu was even bigger than the last one we went to, and its stones were even better set together. I call these ancient villages, but actually, they were inhabited until the late 1860s or 70s when the actual Rapa Nui Wars began. And at that time in the late 1800s, those villages had already been there for 600 to 800 years. So they're simultaneously very ancient, but not that long ago abandoned. So Hanga Omoi has these megalithic stones. They were taller than us along its front face, and they were so well fit together, they reminded me of the other famous ahu on the island that's called Vinapu. Vinapu is really famous. A lot of people think that it's evidence of Inca contact on the island because its stones are so perfectly fit together. I thought it was the only one like that on the island, but this hike proved to me that Hanga Omoi has even bigger stones that seem to be as well fit together. As we walked away from Hanga Omoi, we noticed out in the field there was a huge moai just laying on its face. It was 8 meters long and just laying down there. So we walked around it, checked it out. It was in good shape, but it had fallen because it had to be abandoned. It's what we call a moai in transit. It was on its way to an ahu when the chaotic civil war broke out, and that work crew had to just drop it and leave and run and defend their village. For the next couple of hours, we walked through what was numerous villages. They were smaller villages, but they still had ahu and boat houses. We walked through them, and in one section, we found a huge area of petroglyphs on flat rocks. There were things like turtles and birds from the ocean. And we were very careful not to step on them or even touch them. These things, even though they're made of rock, are very fragile, and they're also very sacred to the Rapa Nui. So we took careful attention not to touch them or step on them. In that same area, we also went into a cave that Paka and Sebi showed us. It was called Ana Oheo. And Ana Oheo, inside of it, it's not a very big cave, but it's carved everywhere with the face of their creator deity, Maki. So they call it the Maki cave. But very, very few people see this. We actually met his aunt there, and we took turns going in and taking a look at it, so she knew where it was too. But very few people, even the Rapa Nui themselves, are sure of exactly where this cave is. I was glad that Paka and Sebi did. The next really big ahu we approached, we could see it off in the distance, but it was like no ahu I had ever seen. It was like a big ramp. And Paka and Sebi said that it was that shape because it was actually a symbolic boat ramp. It's called Ahu Atanga. And even though archaeologists haven't touched it at all, no one's done any work on it, it's still in really great condition. It was a good place for us to take a group picture halfway through our long hike. So I'll send a picture up there of some of that fun. But boy, this thing was unique and giant. Again, what you'd expect the most powerful clan on the island to have. Not too much farther along in the coast, we ran into an ahu that we didn't really have a clear name of what the ahu was, but out laying in front of it was a very special moai. It was just laying on its back in front of this ahu, and it was small. There are two things made it special. One, its size said that it was probably a very early moai. Moai over the centuries got bigger and bigger and bigger, and this one was about my height, so it wasn't that big. The other thing is that it was made out of basalt. Of the 1,000 moai we know on the island, there's only 7 of them that are made of basalt. The rest of them are made of this volcanic tuft from Ranararaku. This one is basalt, and so it's a very special, different moai. There are only 7 other ones, and one of them, one basalt moai, is actually languishing away in the British Museum right now. The Rapa Nui want it back. The British won't give it up. The last big construction we walked through on our journey was called Hanga Oteo. And its ahu was not as nicely put together, but it still had huge stones, and it was very, very long. It was probably 50 meters long, one of the longest ones on the island. The only other longest one I can think of is Tongariki. But this was probably the second longest. And the most interesting thing about this area was that at the end of the ahu was a tower, a stone tower with a little door in the bottom. And that is known as one of the Rapa Nui astronomy towers. They're called tupas. And this was the second one we had seen on our hike, but it was in perfect condition. These towers were manned by Rapa Nui astronomers. These people are the ones who watched the stars for navigation. They tracked the month through the moon, and they tracked their agricultural cycle through the passage of the sun. Very complex astronomy done in these towers. And it's interesting, we have maybe 17 of these towers on the island, but they're all on the north side of the island. So whatever the secrets of Rapa Nui astronomy were, it was best seen from that north end. So that was the last of the big stuff we saw, but we walked for another 2 hours towards our final destination through all sorts of interesting little villages with their own ahus and their own boat houses. They had some of them even had boat ramps down towards the shore, but they were all over the place. I could also see, as I walked along, fragments of obsidian all over the place. And the obsidian mine on the island is on the other side of the island, about 15 miles away. So there was a quantity of things from the other side of the island there as well. Again, that's what the rich Miru clan would have. So we kept walking all the way to our final destination, which was Anakena Beach, which also has an ahu, and it's also in the Miru clan. It's actually the home base of the Miru clan. Today, it's kind of a tourist area. It's got restaurants and shops, and the rest of our group was waiting for us there. And as we dragged in after our 6 hours of hike, they all greeted us like returning heroes. 6 hours, we were wiped out, but man, did we see some things that nobody ever sees. So there you go. That's my story of the northwest coast of Rapa Nui and the things that very, very few people get to see there. Thanks for watching. If you liked that video, here's another you might like. Please remember to hit subscribe so that my next videos can try to find you instead of you trying to find them. And if you'd like to support my work, please find me at my podcast, Archaeologist. I have a Patreon link to that, and you could support my work through that. In any event, thanks for watching.